Operations Committee meeting for 2024. Hope everyone's feeling refreshed and ready to go. I'll open the meeting with a karakia. Tuia ki runga, tuia ki raro, tuia ki roto, tuia ki waho, tui tātou te tangata, kei te kaupapa o te huinei, kei te kaupapa o te rangi nei, ori ora kia tātou katoa. Bind above, bind below, bind within, bind beyond. Bind us, the people, to the purpose of our meeting, to the purpose of this day. Breathe life into all of us. This morning we have Councillor Ellis on Zoom, and we have Community Board Member David Armstrong on Zoom. Just remember, please, that the meeting is being recorded. We have the media present. Use your microphones if talking, and put your hand up if you wish to speak. The location of the toilets are out here and to the left, and the fire exits are out here, are they? That's right. Yes, got that right. I'd also like to just acknowledge that full council have agreed to the appointment of an iwi representative to this committee. That is Chanel Starkey, and her first meeting will be on the 4th of April, where we'll be having an official welcome to her on this committee. I shall now ask for apologies. We do have apologies from Deputy Mayor Bryant, an apology from Councillor Greening, and an apology for lateness from Councillor Hill. Do I have a mover for those apologies, please? Moved Councillor Maru, seconded Councillor Shellcraft. I shall put that to the meeting. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. We have no one registered this morning for the public forum. Actually, I might just backtrack. We might have an apology for lateness from Mayor King. Councillor Murray, are you happy for that to be added? And are you happy, Councillor Shellcraft, to add that in? All right. So I shall now call for any declarations of interest, which it would appear there are none. We have no late items, so that then takes us to the pardon? No public forum. No, that then takes us to the confirmation of the minutes. We have made, I have to get this but actually moved, do I, about Councillor Greening's apology? No, we just amended it on the minutes. Yeah, okay. So there is I just want to make a point that there is a bit in the minutes where an apology had been tendered by Councillor Greening but was not able to be actioned in time for the meeting. So that has been altered in the minutes. So do I have someone to move those minutes? Moved Councillor Shellcraft. Oh, he had a question. Go.
Yeah, I have actually got a declaration of interest in the skate park series.
Okay, let's just record that. Thank you. Do I have someone to move those minutes? Moved Councillor Mailing, seconded Councillor Dowler. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. All right, that takes us to our reports. Yes, you may. Mr. Kirby, over to you.
I just need to welcome some new staff to council. First of all, Rosalind Wells. Rosalind's down the back there. So Rosalind's come as a project delivery office in Russell McGuigan's team, program delivery. We've also George Daly. George is not down the back at the moment, but George Daly has been working with us on Jobs for Nature for a while in a temporary capacity. He's now been appointed as a project manager within the program delivery team and carrying on with the Jobs for Nature. So Greg Bennett, Greg's not here today, but Greg is in the, he's a stormwater engineer. He's taken Robert Workman's place. Those of you remember Robert left. Greg's come up from Waimakariri District Council, very experienced in stormwater. We've also got a new engineering cadet, Jonas Ehrman. Jonas is actually at NMIT today and tomorrow, so he was not able to be here. And last but not least, Marina King is temping as Marina. Temping, sorry, and Christina has left last week, so Marina's come in to fill in a temporary role until we replace that role. So, so welcome the staff. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, well, welcome to all those new staff to Tasman District Council. All right, so we're going to start this morning with the Library's Customer Service and Community Partnerships Update Report. Welcome Janet and Glenys. And so we'll do it as we usually do in sections, and our first section will be the library's update with Glenys.
Thank you and good morning. As you can see from the report, it's been a typically busy period of time for us. These days we're constantly busy with programs and events, and the programs and events that I've listed there are simply a snapshot and highlights of trying to show the range of programs and events that we deliver. During December, pre-Christmas and January, it tends to be one of our busiest times. Most of our regular programming, particularly our adult program, goes into recess over January, and we focus most of our effort on our children's programs and our summer reading program. This year we felt that our summer reading program was particularly successful. We've made an effort over the last 2 years to take our events out of the libraries, out beyond our walls and into our parks and open spaces. And we've had really great feedback from our communities about seeing the staff outside of the libraries. We're also very pleased to see that the events that we have run in the Murchison Library have had an impact in that community. We haven't always had the staffing availability to go down there and run events, and they are run by Richmond staff because clearly there's not enough staffing in Murchison to be able to do that. But we're seeing an impact there in terms of growing use of the collections and increased membership numbers, and it was really clear from the children's events that were run that there's a real thirst for that to happen there. So great feedback again for us from that. Moving on to Tasman Heritage, it's our intention to continue developing that resource. This is a very long-term resource, long-term archive. And we were really pleased to be able to accept the donation of the historic images from the Rob and Lynn Packer collection. It's a very substantial and important collection. It's certainly going to take some time to fully digitise that. We do have limited staffing availability to do that. So we're currently looking at recruiting and training volunteers to assist us with that. And just a couple of Tasman-related images from that collection. There are, truly some amazing images that we've already got. A lot of them are Nelson-based, so I tried to choose some Tasman-based ones to show you. I won't go through all of our key statistics, but they do paint a picture of very healthy, sustained healthy use of the libraries. I will apologise for the first graph. For some reason, unknown why to me, some error on my part probably, in the way I edited it into Info Council. It wasn't supposed to show you 21 years worth of issues. It was supposed to show you 6. So the data table is pretty nonsensical to you. However, the 21 years does show quite an interesting pattern of ebbs and flows, and it does also show the sustained growth in the digital collections and digital issues. Overall, our metrics are showing a good sustained use of the libraries, with some significant growth in use of our digital collections and visitor numbers. We're really pleased to see that those are coming back up after that COVID period. It's taken us quite a long time to recover our usership from those closure periods. So all in all, we feel like we're in very good shape. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Glenys. And so timely having that picture in there of hop picking, given that, they started this week picking hops. So, yeah, great images there. All right, we have some questions. We'll start with Councillor Mayling.
Well, thank you for your report, Glenys. This is a question a little bit about the condition of the building, which the manager, Mr. Kirby, has talked about. So I understand there's some leaks, and it's a reasonably old building. I think it was originally the Wrightson's building when I was growing up here, so that makes it a bit older than some of our other buildings. And I understand we're getting a report about it in a meeting in the future, but is it impacting on your operation at the moment?
I think that's probably a yes and no. We've been plagued by leaks, mostly not in the public areas where the public can see them, for quite a few years, almost since the time when the building was redeveloped, and that's coming up 14 years ago. So that's, that has taken a lot of time and effort, and I'm sure money from property services budgets to deal with those leaks. There have been a couple of areas on the car park side of the library that has actually affected the wall lining, so that's been replaced once or twice in some areas. We've been particularly noticing it in the staff areas upstairs. Some of what has been happening there has certainly concerned staff in terms of safety. The ceiling has started to sag, and it has been for some time. The solar panels being added to the roof has created even more of an issue there. We've been told at this point that it's not a safety issue, but that is still a concern to staff. That's probably all I can really say. The rest of it's for property services to answer.
And my understanding is we'll get a report probably at the next meeting or soon.
Right. Thank you, Glenys. Councillor Kinnan-Mons.
Glenys and Janet, I did a little subversive visit to Richmond Library 2 or 3 weeks ago, and undercover, and I want to thank your staff so much. They were so helpful. They were so, if anything, they were right on my shoulder. Is that the right book? Is that what you're after? They just didn't say it's over there. They actually took me there. And I know I'm old and frail, but the staff need to be complimented for what they've done. The attitude, the smiling faces. Please pass on my gratitude to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kinnan-Mons. Councillor Maru.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to know what cost you know. There's been ongoing challenges with sound in the Motueka Library. So not talking about the Zoom sound now, which seems to be rectified. Thank you, Mr. Manners. But it was raised at the community board on Tuesday about members in public forum not being able to hear, and perhaps other events when they've got people in there not being able to hear in room, not digital. So I'm just flagging it because I think it's coming through different angles. So it's more of a flag. But have you had any feedback from other users about that?
Well, no, actually. So I'm pleased to hear that. We haven't had that, no. That's certainly something that I'll be asking some questions about. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Walker.
Yeah, thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. Glenys, when we look at all this data and statistics you give us, it's paints a really clear and great picture. I'm just wondering, do we ever catch the data on how many people, how many community groups are actually using hiring out or using the space within, and I don't know if I've just gleaned over it and haven't seen it, but it's a question that comes to my mind, particularly around other people using our facilities and what we do and we don't provide. Do we have data on who uses our rooms?
We do.
Would you be able, even if you take it offline, send me the
I can certainly put something together. I mean, we don't always collate it, so I'll just need to collate that, and yes, certainly can send something out.
Cool, thank you.
All right. It would appear there's no further questions on libraries. I perhaps should tender an apology for the number of overdue books I had over the summer, but we'll move on now to community partnerships. So John filling in, I guess, for Julia and Lani.
Yeah, I'm not looking to my right again because I know what's coming. So look, Julia and Lani are not here, so I am standing in, and again, it's not libraries this time. I'll do my best to try and answer any questions, but as you can see, there's a massive agenda of events over Christmas and really successful stuff. And I think Councillor Mellon, you attended one at the weekend as well. So I'll try and answer any questions you've got, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory. They're a great team doing some great work.
All right, Councillor, this is taking us from pages 11 through to 17. So, Councillor Shellcrest.
Am I allowed to talk about this? Because I've got that.
Yes, you may.
Cool. Yeah, obviously, I'm lucky enough to be involved in the skate park series and a lot of the youth stuff that the team does, and we've had a really successful start to the year with our round one of the skate park series. So, big ups to the team, and the numbers are just through the roof. So I think they do a really good job, and it's a really good community thing to be having and carrying on with it.
Thank you, Councillor Shellcrest. Councillor Walker.
Yeah, thank you, through Madam Chair. I guess as part of Councillor Shellcrest and my portfolios that we cover the youth, and it's a phenomenal group of very eager students that we do this mahi with. And I guess for me, I just want to do a shout out to Murchison. Murchison, we just had the top of an event last week for the opening of the year for youth, and we combined with Nelson City Council, who have 18 youth councillors. And we had a team of 6 come up from Murchison. That means leaving home at 6:15 in the morning to participate. So when we did the events like the Christmas in the park and the multicultural event that happened over at Washbourne Gardens, again, Murchison come all the way. So big shout out to Murchison. It's a big ask for them. They're a very combined, energetic group. And I don't think sometimes we capture actually what it is for Murch to be involved. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, Councillor Shellcrest and I, it is a privilege. It also is a big, huge time commitment for us. But and to our staff, to Julia and her team and Lani, a lot of energy goes into developing and helping these guys. So I'd like to thank you for that. And my question is, what else can we do to support Murch? Because they are quite isolated, but they don't allow that isolation to stop them coming and doing stuff over this way. What are we doing to go to them?
I hope that was a rhetorical question. Was that a rhetorical question, or was that a question? Did you want an answer for it?
It's planting of the seed, okay. Kind of.
You planted the seed.
Because, end of last year, our area, our district, we had the end of year hui, which was in Murchison.
Okay, well, I'll transplant the seed to Lani and I'll get a response. Okay.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Walker. It would appear no more questions for you, John. Thank you. Which takes us on to the last section of the report, which is the customer services update. And we've got Janet. And let me just start off by saying, what an amazing, stunning result that you've achieved, you and your team, Janet, have achieved, and I think that you should feel a great sense of achievement in that. So I shall pass that over for any further questions. Councillor Dowler.
I just want to make a comment that yesterday, on behalf of a ratepayer, I fronted up at the front counter out here with a question from not a good one.
Not a good one.
The girls listened. Ladies, radio, ladies, yep, listened. Said that they would find out, and I said I'd call back after the meeting. I went back after the meeting, and they had everything plus more for me. I was wrecked. I've passed it on to the ratepayer last night, and they were stoked to get the information back so quickly. Brilliant. So thank you.
Okay. Well, so other than passing on accolades, Councillor Mayling, have you got?
Well, I'd just endorse your comments. If you have a look at the change over the last 18 months, 2 years, that's just fantastic. You know, because I ring up with requests, and sometimes they're not easy, and I'm not the most patient person on the phone, so I have to wait. I'm the first to admit that, but they're so helpful, and you can see that in those results. So it's not an easy job to be in that, because especially, and the after hours ones as well, because often I get something happening after hours and I ring up and do a service request or whatever. So it's a huge improvement from where we were.
John,
look, Janet will always keep quiet, and the team will do all the accolades and stuff. But I guess the next step is, where do we go from here, right? So because of the drilling noise upstairs this week, I sat down in customer services and went on the phones yesterday. And, I would put it out there. It's worth sitting and listening to some of the conversations there for 10, 15 minutes. And I'm sure Janet would encourage you, because it's quite fascinating what people ring up about and what the team have got to know about, and some of the random questions the team do answer. Your question is always random, Councillor, but it's the knowledge base they've got to have. But I think for me, the future, we're now getting into the digital side of things with the DIP program, and Steve will talk later a bit about that. But what we're seeing will now take us forward and give us the ability to provide an even better service when we improve our digital offering, which, when we look at what is in the market now compared to what the team have got to deal with now, is night and day. It's just so clunky and old what we're dealing with. So I guess what I'm suggesting is, if you've got a spare 10 minutes, jump on the phones and have a listen, because it's quite fascinating. It's a real eye-opener.
Thank you very much. Nothing more to be said on that. Great news story. So I guess I'm looking for someone to move, and we have the resolution up there that we received the report, moved by Councillor Mayling, seconded by Councillor fighting over it down there, Maru. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you once again. All right, we now move on to Community Infrastructure Activity Report. And we have a number of sections here, so we'll take it section at a time, but we'll start with the management update. Richard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've already introduced some of the staff. The reason why George Daly's not here is walking the Kepler track, so it's kind of interesting to know. It's good. Probably one thing I haven't put in here that is probably of relevance is that where the 3 water spaces at the moment. We had a letter from the Minister earlier this week outlining what the new government is going to do in the 3 water space, and effectively, as you're aware, they're looking at councils to work together and develop entities. There's legislation being put in place mid-2024, like mid of this year, and councils are going to have 12 months to sort themselves out on what they do and how they do it. And that not only includes the delivery of it, it's also the economic aspects of it as well. They're going to be passing some economic legislation as well. So, yeah, 12 months is going to be a bit of a challenge, I think. But in the meantime, I think we might start having some discussions with our neighbours and just see where we go from this. I haven't discussed any further with Leone at this point, but I know when Janine discussed it, she wanted us to kind of be at the forefront and take the lead on that. So we'll see what happens from here on in. Yeah.
Thank you, Richard. So any questions for Richard on his management update and maybe the Three Waters? Councillor Mayling.
Just to comment on the Three Waters, I think some of the work that was done previously should stand us in good stead. And we're about 60,000. The top of the south is 165,000 people. To me, that makes some sense if we can work together. That's just a comment, and I'm sure that won't be easy, because as soon as you get a lot more people in, it's more difficult. But to fund the infrastructure across the top of the south, we just look at, I know Marlborough's got a big plant to do, wastewater plant. We've got Motueka. None of it's cheap, and wastewater is much more expensive than drinking water.
Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chair. I'd hope that economy of scale, you know, if that's not a factor in benefiting us, that would be one of the drivers of whether we be looking to, you know, amalgamate it all. And I think it's all well and good to say that the new ideas around this, I think in the criticism of Three Waters, you know, recent commentary around that, oh, well, we can just get councils to join up together if they want to. Just misses one of the main points of Three Waters was the economy of scale matters. So I'm imagining that we'll be only entering into anything that's going to provide benefit for Tasman, really. You know, you can just sort of think, oh, well, it'll be better if we all go together, but it actually might not. And so I'm assuming all of our eyes will be wide open.
Thank you, Councillor Hill. It would appear no more questions at this stage, Richard. So we'll move on to property, pages 25 through to 34. So we don't have yes, Rob. We have Rob in place of Nick. So any questions under property? Councillor Maru.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 4.9, Rob. So I'm a little bit confused in terms of I read it as if there could be a delay in long-term leases for the commercial leases on King Edward Street. We've got lots of land there, and our preference, as I understood it, was that pull in any recreational amenities our preference was to build that on the grassed Rural 1 zone piece of land that there's some process to. I'd just hate to think that we've purchased land and we're putting some commercial leases at risk, which was the whole part of the good story process. So that 4.9 just confused me a bit.
I'll be honest and say I don't know. My understanding very vaguely, but I can't say that was that the existing commercial tenancies were just coming across to the council. I'm not aware of there being any new ones, but you'll know the site infinitely better than me. So apologies, and I'm sure Nick will be able to answer it when he's back. And feel free to get in touch with him, or even Stephen outside this forum. I'm sure he can answer that relatively quickly. So my apologies that I can't.
Richard, I think you had a comment.
Yeah, just Stephen actually produced at the Enterprise Committee yesterday, outlined that one of the subleases on that property has gone, and so there's another tenant come in. So they've just been amalgamated, and the agreements and the lease agreements are being managed so that they help enable us to be able to deliver the swimming pool on that site at some time in the future. So Stephen's got his hand across it, so he can provide more detail on it. But I do know that there is a lessee that's wanting to sublease one of the properties, and that's happening in the context of the current lease.
Great, thank you. And just one more, if I can, Madam Chair. The property assessments that have been done in the buildings, are they available for us to have a look at? Because I see they're noted, but I couldn't find how to find them. I'm just interested in some of those assessments under 4.11 that have been done.
I could answer that one, Madam Chair. Yes, they are available. They take a little bit of probably a bit of an explanation to outline exactly what they mean. SPM came in, who are very experienced in doing property conditioning, and so they've ranked them 1 to 5. And it's just understanding what goes from a 1 to a 2 to a 3 to a 4 to a 5, so that you can actually interpret the information really well. In short, the 5 means it's got to be basically fixed now because it's in a serious state. A 1, it's in good condition and it's could last for the rest of its useful life, whatever that is. And then obviously from 2, 3, 4, it grades down. So with a bit of an explanation around that, we can actually present that information to you. Yeah. It's actually quite a lot of information, so it may actually be you just perhaps ask for particular ones as opposed to us giving you a dossier of the whole lot, because there's quite a big database with that. And if we did print it out for you, it'd probably be in excess of 100 odd pages, and I'm not sure that's quite what you want.
I wouldn't like. And then I might leave 4.14.
Thank you. Look, I just want to make a comment actually in the report with the work that's being done in the old Wakefield Library. You know, that's super exciting to be removing that cladding and revealing the removed panelling, and, you know, given the importance to the Wakefield community about its heritage aspects. So I hope that we are protecting those things and not recovering them.
I hope so too, but I'll leave it.
Thank you. I have to say again, as far as I know, that project's on track, and I bike past there reasonably often on my bike ride from Stoke all the way to the Wakefield Pie Shop. It's looking great. Just a couple of things that I thought might be of general interest is the Motupipi footpath, particularly for Councillor Hill. We have very recently signed an agreement, but we're waiting for Fonterra to sign their side of it. But everything's indicating that should be very soon, which is wonderful. In terms of the Faulkners Bush Scout Hall, just before Nick left, he sent a fairly strong email to Scouts about the way negotiations were going between the kindergarten people, and we've heard back from the kindergarten people that they're now dealing with a paid employee who looks after the whole of the South Island rather than the local volunteer. So that's looking quite promising as well. Lastly, I thought you might be interested in the electric cars. They've just this week had their e-road units installed. They needed 4G units. The units coming out of the old cars were the old 3G technology. So we're expecting that you will see them around on the Tasman District roads from next week. So it's been a big investment, and I think a great decision. It's been frustrating for, I know, Nick and Danny, how long it's taken to get them on the road, but they should be on the road next week.
Thank you. Robert, just a question about the Scout Hall there in Wakefield. So I'm hearing then that there's the idea of that becoming a kindergarten. Is that?
Yes, I hope I haven't mixed up the play centre and kindergarten folk again, but
no, that's fine. But I'm assuming that there would be a kind of a public process that would be worked through.
Yes, exactly. Yes. What I think it's been understood that the issue for that is we've only got a land lease with the Scouts, and the Scouts own the building. So the sale of the building needs to be negotiated between the kindergarten people and the Scouts. Once the kindergarten people own the building, then there's a public process that we go through to grant a lease, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. Because I guess the land tenure is actually the recreation, the Faulkners Bush Scenic Reserve, is it, or?
I stand to be corrected, but I think it is a separate reserve.
Okay, all right. I should probably take this offline.
Yeah, feel free. But my instinct is it's a local purpose reserve, that particular part.
Okay, all right. Thank you. All right. Apart from me, any more questions for Robert? Yeah, Councillor Walker.
Yeah, thank you, through Madam Chair. I was surprised that Councillor Murray didn't continue. I did know he reflected across the room, but 4.14, the old Motueka Library, Motueka Service Centre and the Laura Ingram Kindergarten. I have to say I sit here very grieved about what's written in your report. 3 ward councillors before the end of last year, we met with staff. We had quite a robust conversation, and I get that it wasn't in a public forum setting, so I get that a lot of that's not in this report. But that report does not reflect the conversations in my world, my understanding of what was said. And can you explain to me what is the expected cost of 1.5 million going to cover? And I hear that the workshop will be held in mid-March. Time is ticking by, and I don't know if you're aware of the activities that are currently happening at Laura Ingram, but that grieves me as well. So can I have a bit of an understanding of what this 1.5 million is? Hold your seat, Councillor Dowler. No, it's not. Let me leave.
Robert.
Fair questions. And I'm afraid Nick's been driving this predominantly. For what it's worth, I had a meeting with Chris Sutton in Nick's absence about Laura Ingram just last week. So my understanding is that the 1.5 million is the redevelopment of the old library if it's converted to a different use and potentially an expanded service centre. But that's contingent on the possibility of selling the existing service centre to cover a lot of that. That's broadly speaking my understanding of what the 1.5 million. Richard, I don't know if you've got anything to add.
Apologies, Madam Chair. I didn't actually pick up this particular clause. It shouldn't actually been written this way. We have a resolution from the community board before us on what they intended to do. Things have changed since then, and we have to come back. What we wanted to do now, what we are doing, there is some information that we have to gather on the different options for each of the entities, which is the Laura Ingram, the old library and the service centre. And there are legal situations with all 3 about the various options that we choose. We're actually investigating all of that right now. So all those facts are on the table so that you can look and see which ones, if you want to revisit the resolution from last year, then you can, or you can still substantiate and say, listen, we want to carry on with the recommended council, we go down that track. But we're wanting to get all the information together. The delay has been trying to get the legal information related particularly to the service centre, what we can and can't do on the options with the service centre. And I know we've got some of our legal advisors trying to research information with LINZ and everything to find out the history of the service centre, because obviously you know that under the Public Works Act, if we go down to the sale option of the service centre, there may be some buyback options from previous landowners, and that's what we have to work through. So we want to present all that information to you. This report 4.14 is basically just highlighting different options. It's not actually stating what we're going to do. And the 1.5 million is largely to do with the structural upgrade of the old library and refitting it as a as not only a service centre or potentially a community facility. So, but I'm not sure how the 1.5 million is broken up, but that'll be subject of a future report. But at this stage, we're aiming for the April community board meeting for the community board to revisit.
Sorry, can I just clarify that the meeting I had with Chris Sutton was initiated with her because she has an interest in the law at Ingram. So it was basically just to hear her vision.
So for the betterment of everybody in the room, could you explain who Chris Sutton is? Because that's not in context for the other councillors, I wouldn't have thought.
Sorry, very good point. Chris Sutton is the chair of the Motueka Museum Trust, who I think it's in the public arena are keen to find new storage facilities for their displays that aren't in the actual museum. So thank you, a good question. Hopefully that answers it.
Councillor Walker, yeah, all right, thank you. We've got Councillor Kinninmont and then Councillor Shallcrest and then Councillor Maru.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Page 25, clause 4.4, the road acquisition on Abel Tapper Drive, Pahara. Has this been dragging on for some years, has it? And is there any likely resolution this year?
Perhaps I could answer that one. It has been going on for years. There's a lot of history involved with it. But suffice to say that the effort that Robert has put in over the last 2 to 3 years with the specific landowners, we're nearly at the finish line. So, yeah, that's all I can say. Robert, you can add to that. That's basically where we're at.
It's an incredibly technical issue. I'm happy to sit down and explain it to you, but I think your eyes would go glassy within a couple of minutes. It's the Forms Road is part of it is not legal road, and we are working with the landowners to try and resolve that.
It's just that I'd heard a whisper that it was getting close to finding a solution, and I must be full of compliments today because I was going to compliment you on getting this far so quickly. It was such a difficult problem.
I do not ever count my chickens, I promise you.
Thank you, Councillor Shallcrest.
Yep, through the chair. Just item 7.2, page 68. Just the
don't think we're actually up to page 60 just yet.
Too early. Okay.
So curb your enthusiasm. Thank you, Councillor Maru.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's just a quick question for Mr. Kirby. Can you just clarify what I think I heard is there not going to be a workshop in March, but there's going to be a paper to the board in April? I'm just confused now.
No, there will be a workshop in March as well, but I'm aiming for the board to go to the community board in April. In the workshop in March, it says the councillors, it'll probably be the community board members as well, just to talk it through.
All right, so we've been dealing with property and Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chair. In terms of the property assessments, great to see our properties getting assessed, and checked out. I think when I came here, I had conversations with maybe Nick or somebody around, how does all that happen, and how do we get to know what sort of state all our buildings are in and what they need. So just wondering, so the list of things that have been assessed, is the Tāwhiki Museum going to be assessed?
I know I spoke to Kathy, who's coordinating the assessments, and I definitely said to her that it needs to be assessed, so it will be, yeah.
And they're pretty comprehensive assessments around their sort of basic structure, as well as, needs a roof, needs a paint, needs cladding taken off, whatever it is. But in terms of if they're sort of sinking piles and does it go to that extent?
So the initial assessments are typically mainly exterior, and then as I understand it, there'll be more detailed assessments as work becomes needed. So they'll do an initial assessment, say, okay, that's a priority to look at, and then they'll do a really detailed assessment closer to the time. That's my broad understanding of a project that I'm not directly involved in. So
thank you. And so it goes to structural matters too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes,
but I'm not sure that at this stage you could rely on these initial assessments to give you that right down to that level of detail, particularly in relation to things like piles and that kind of thing.
Yeah. I'm aware of parts of the buildings over there in pretty poor shape, and we could fix the window that's leaking and possibly causing damage internally, but we're not looking at the piles in a slumping building, and
absolutely. Yeah.
Did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, just right. The assessments are visual ones at this stage. And as you know, with buildings, sometimes you can't see behind the cladding, but sometimes the cladding can actually give an indication of the structural integrity of the building. But we're not doing full structural analysis like you would for an earthquake design. But we're just looking at the condition of it from a visual perspective. And if there's some obvious structural elements, they'll be noted as well. But if you've got a good building with porous cladding, and everything else looks fine, it may not mean that the building's structurally sound, even though visually it might look structurally sound. So we're not doing that aspect of it. It's all visual at this point.
Hopefully a wobbly floor, spongy floor would indicate
Correct. That's what I was saying. By the visual aspect, sometimes the visual symptoms are a signal of something deeper, but that does not mean that there may be a structural infirmity, but the cladding and everything's still perfectly fine.
At the risk of labouring this, aware of some, the people running the place over there are aware of the state of some aspects of the historic post office in terms of its piling and things. So I guess just wanting reassurance we're not putting money into, fixing up windows and things that, when actually there's core deeper issues to the place.
Thank you. All right. Thanks very much, Robert. And we're going to move on now to transportation, which are pages 34 to 49. And Brian, welcome. So any discussion, questions relating to transportation? Brian.
Thank you, Christine. I'll take the report as read if I can. I'd just like to add something to the report since the report was drafted about 2 weeks ago. So specifically page 39, 5.4. And that was just really an update, a general summary of what was happening. And just to report further to that, obviously the conditions have got drier out there. So now mowing operations have ceased fully. We are continuing to grade in the Murchison and Golden Bay areas, but not at the Waimea Basin area now. So other activities are continuing. We were using milling equipment, and all sites have at least 1,000 litres of pressurised water on site, as well as plenty of people and extinguishers. So that's why we continued with that type of work, and obviously we'll continue to monitor the spark hazard register.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that explanation. I mean, it was certainly raised at the Tapawera community meeting this week that the mowing was in need of being done because it's high and dry, so they're concerned about it for all, those reasons. But yeah, I guess my question might be in how we communicate what we're doing in terms of, stopping because of the fire risk, how we notify communities about that, but I'll leave that with you. Councillor Dowler.
Yeah, just a question, just for my own. We purchased a property on Wensley Road up here at the corner to do some boundary alterations so we can get people on bikes and walking through there better. I come that way when I come here and I see that the road's being closed, and it's closed at the moment at the one corner. It's one lane going down Winsley Road and no coming through that way. I know that's probably not in the budget this year, but we bought that property to do a modification. We closed the road off. It's been closed off for probably a week or so now, but there's nothing happening to the property. I thought it must have been being closed to actually do the cut off and form what we needed to form, and then put the property back on the market again. That was the deal that we were going to do, I thought. But I don't see any of the property being touched. It must be something else.
No, the work being done on there is purely to fix Wensley Road. There's some major defects that could actually, we've got to get that done before winter, because otherwise we've got even worse work being done. The property itself, we've had two-part sale and purchase agreements. In fact, we had one yesterday that we signed. But the first home buyers withdrew. But we understand there's 2 or 3 other people interested in it. So we're actually about to sell it. So the survey has been done, but the planning to put the new fence and everything up hasn't been finalised and done yet. So we're working with the team on that. But this particular work is on the road, not to do with the property.
Will the work on the property involve road closure later on, or can we get away without having to cone it off?
I can't comment on that until it's done. I suspect there may not be fully road closure, maybe one lane. But yeah, we haven't actually looked at that and discussed it. But I don't think, I'll be with you in a minute. I don't think we'd want to do that property work as well as the road work at the same time. I think we have to do one and the other, do them separately.
Robert.
Through you, Madam Chair. So the purchase of that property and legalisation of part of it as road has been given effect to. All that we're going to do is put a fence on the new boundary. To my knowledge, there's no road works associated with it now. It was more of a future-proofing project than a need to do work in that particular location in the immediate future. So I'm not expecting that there'll be any need to close the road. We're just putting a fence about 3 metres inside the existing fence.
It's going to be gutted if we took the road down, open her up again, and in 2 months' time we close it off again and disrupt everybody.
Yeah, Councillor Kinninmonth.
Thank you. I think it might be you, Brian, but page 41, clause 5.12, Mapua Drive footpath infill, 125 Mapua Drive. As a regular user of that road for many years, thank you very much for sorting that out. It's been an eyesore in the community for a while now, and that just completes, that was a gap in between the curb and channel. My question to you or someone on your team is that, was this a joint funded project or just solely on the council's costs?
It was my understanding that it was a joint funded, but I will check that. I wasn't directly involved with the project and report back.
Thank you. Councillor Mayling.
Just a quick question on 5.8 in relation to bus stop repairs. And I can think of 2 in Richmond that we've had to do. The one across the road, which was done at night, but it did take a bit of time over Christmas, and the one in Hill Street. Are we continuing to see more? Because I know the new buses are considerably heavier than the old ones, and we're also going further. So are we getting more?
Yes, we are continuing to monitor the areas, and particularly in set down and pick up areas. We are noticing a bit more stress, but not as bad as what we have in the 2 areas. So the amount of deterioration that we have at the moment isn't alarming us too much at the moment. There's just a couple of sites that, as council has already pointed out, that failed quite rapidly. But yeah, we're just continuing to follow those sites at the moment.
All right. Well, it looks like roading. We've canvassed that. So thank you very much, Brian. And we'll move on now to water and waste, and Mike. Oh, here we go, Mike.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, councillors. I'm going to take the report as read. I don't have anything to add from the report, but what I'd like to do today is just give a bit of an update on our financials to date. And we're in the middle of reforecasting to the end of this year. And there are a couple of areas of concern. I'll go through each of the three waters in particular. So the water supply routine, we actually have done quite well. We're under budget at this stage. And on track, and that's despite having to install about 17 extra sample taps, and there's associated monitoring and reporting that goes with that as well now. But the reactive side of water is a concern. We're about 800,000 over at this stage, largely because of the number of leaks we've had through this year. That incident we had with the Wakefield infiltration gallery and bore issue, over 3 days, we had 9 leaks when we had to pressurize a line to meet the demand for water. We've also had the Wakefield bore infiltration gallery issues itself. Quite a bit of work was needed to get that up and running. And over at the Pahara treatment plant, whenever we have a rainfall event, it's a surface take, so we have issues with the pond filling up, having to be dug out, and we often have to have quite a manual monitoring and handling of that plant to juggle the high turbidity water coming through there. So it is an issue with most of our surface take suppliers, and those are a lot of the areas where we're having to meet the deadlines with the protozoa barriers, particularly on the rural schemes. The wastewater routine is slightly over, and this has a lot to do with the membrane, the new membranes and new cleaning processes we have to follow, and operation regimes to since we've installed the new membranes. They seem to be responding well to the new operation and maintenance, but we're about 100,000 over on wastewater. Wastewater reactive is pretty good. That's more or less on track. We did have an unforeseen reactive cost there when we had to do the work at the hang on, where are we? Pahara. We had to remove the fence and install bollards and so on at the pump station just near the dairy there when the cycleway work was done. So there's about 40,000 there. And that's very close to the amount that we're over at the moment. So it explains that. Stormwater routine, we're about 100,000 over on stormwater routine maintenance, largely because of the creeks and drains that we've inherited through growth. We're still playing catch up on those, and we had quite an extended growth season last year with good rains initially. I know it's quite dry now, so hopefully we'll cut back a bit on the mowing and so on. But that was unforeseen to the extent of areas that have been invested in council. And the reactive stormwater side is slightly over, and that's largely to do with the Vietnamese parsley and water celery issue that we had to deal with. And on the waste management side, we're not too badly on that overall. There's a few overs and unders within the account, but we're more or less on track. The income has been down, but then our costs to the landfill are down as well. So it balances off. So happy to take any other questions on the report.
Thank you, Mike. We've got Councillor Mailing and then Councillor Kinnamonth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Morning, Mike. 6.12, that AC pipe in Richmond that you said was 59 years old. What's our schedule for replacement? Because I do remember that area being dug up, but I think it was for something different. Pretty sure it was fibre or something else. All those footpaths being dug up not that many years ago.
So originally our replacement for AC pipes was 80 years, and we're just not getting that. We're getting, for many, it's closer to 50 than 59, but the official life expectancy is 60. And so we're working through that with the current LTP to adjust that. And yes, so renewal schedules coming up should address those issues with the AC pipe in particular. We are targeting AC pipe and the old Blue Brute plastic pipe that we've had issues with as well.
Councillor Kinninmonth, then Councillor Mark.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Mike, I sent you an email a couple of days ago, which you answered, regarding page 55, clause 6.3, the water regulator, and how it's consuming a lot of your time over January and February. I'm very concerned that this regulator is over-regulating, that is demanding a lot of information from the councils, operators around here, that might end up in a report that's never ever read. And I'm just concerned that our staff are doing a lot of work that is not necessarily needed. And I'm just wondering whether you would have any thoughts about, and I'm putting you on the spot here, any thoughts about streamlining the process, or going back to the regulator and saying, can we spread the workload over 12 months as opposed to end of year? So that's two questions. Can we spread the workload over a year, or can we go back to the regulator and say, negotiate with them, do they really need all these operating figures?
Through you, Madam Chair. The first one about spreading it over the year, that's just one of the reports we've got to do. We've also got to do what do they call it? Incident reports as things happen. We've got to do our own annual reports for audit and so on. And then we've also got to do other compliance reporting. That's just an oversight of everything we've got. So yeah, it's spreading out over the year won't make too much difference in terms of workload on the team. However, there's been a few complications with this one. It's the first time they've done it. It's not so much ROI that actually set that up. They are legislated to produce an annual report. So they don't really control that. And I'm hoping that working through this, we'll be able to get some feedback through, because I certainly think an exception report, the data's all there. It's all in the system. It's once they get their system set up properly. And they can follow that up if there's an incident, and they can track it back. And my feeling is, and it's a discussion I've had with our local manager from Taumata Arawai as well, is about having an exception report. Just let them know what didn't work and what we're going to do about it. And that would take off quite a bit of the reporting, because by and large, we're doing reasonably well. So if we can get some sort of traction on that, that would help. Also, the other issue we've got is we have to use Water Outlook, which is a program that gathers data and then puts it in a format that can be reported. And the Water Outlook company have failed quite miserably having it ready to report on. So we still don't have the system to report in. So we're going to have to make it manually if we have to do it at all, or if they don't allow a shift in the deadline. I don't think there's anyone in the country that's going to meet the deadline of next week. And it's largely because of Water Outlook not meeting their targets. So that's part of the discussion as well. And to what extent can we report manually? There's a lot of data to work through. So I've got a team of 3 or 2.5 really, that's pretty much spending 2 months full time doing this report.
Thank you for that. I'm becoming very, very frustrated here that we seem to have a layer layers of bureaucracy watching us every time we go and fix a bloody water leak, because we're going to spend so much time getting the shovel really cleaned and tidy, and we've got to have high vis on, we've got to have cones around where the hole is, where we actually don't get on and fix a leak, fix their service. So I would like to see some sort of pushback to some of these requests and say it's going to cost you to get all this reporting, because it's another layer of bureaucracy that, in my mind, is slowing us down from doing our job. Yes, by all means report, but why don't some of these people come out of their office and get on the end of a shovel and find out what is required to do the work, not just sit and do a report. Sorry about my frustration here.
Thank you, Councillor Kinmonth. I think, Mr Kirby, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I think we just need to be very careful here on our comments because we're in a regulatory environment. Pushback's probably not the right word. It's actually having a discussion with Tamata Arawai. It's fair to say that they're learning as well as us in this space. But we do have to remember they have significant powers. So it's not a case of pushing back because, you know, what happens when we push back? People become more militant using their powers. So we need to sit down and talk with them and try and work our way through it. You know, Mike just intimated to me earlier this week, and I just want to warn councillors that we've been focusing on the water supplies at this stage, and we've got 2.5 staff essentially meeting our compliant requirements. Wastewater is the next cab off the rank, and Mike is saying, listen, we might need to have 1 or 2 more full-time equivalents to help with the wastewater side of it. But we're still waiting to see about that. But I just want to warn you that the regulatory environment we're working in now is actually placing huge demands on us. Now, it's not slowing down our work because the people that are doing this are not people that are involved in delivering our water supply. That's, you know, we're working with downers. So we're still complying in that respect. So it's not slowing that aspect down, but it does require extra resources in here to do that reporting. Can I also just warn us on comments like reports not being read? That's not our call. Whatever Tamata Arawai do with their reports is up to them. They may choose to read them, they may choose not to. I don't think we should make any judgment about that. But Mike is absolutely correct. The information we put into these reports is often repeated in the next report. And that's why he's saying, listen, rather than repeating the same information every 6 months, once you've got the first lot of information, how about we just give you an exception report the next 6 months that's different from that first report? So those are the discussions we're having with Tamata Arawai and helping them deliver what they need to deliver under their legislative requirements. So it's not a case of pushing back, it's actually a case of working with them to make sure that the legislative requirements that they have, we're working with them on it so they deliver what they need to deliver and we deliver what we need to deliver. Admittedly, it's going to be at a cost to this council, it's a cost to the schemes, but unfortunately, that's the environment we're in now.
Mike?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do need to emphasise that we've actually got a very good working relationship with our Tamata Arawai manager, Ruth Sarton, and we've met their 3 sort of engineering technical advisors. They're all qualified engineers. They have got extensive local authority and consulting experience. So we're actually talking to like-minded people and they understand it, but they're working under these legislative restrictions as well. And they are quite open to changes. We've had some very useful discussions regarding some of the open source or surface water intakes and how we can deal with the rural areas. And can't go into details, but they are open to like the suggestion of exception reporting. They certainly didn't shoot it down when we mentioned it. They're learning as much as we are at the moment, and I don't think they're fully up to staff either. Just on the wastewater side as well, as Richard has mentioned, we've been holding back our team on doing any major thing, unless, like the water, we had to do something quite urgently with the compliance. We're going to be facing the same issues with wastewater, but wastewater right now, we've got pressure on us. And we've been holding back for probably 18 months to 2 years, working under that pressure. And my teams are having to do a lot more on the subdivision side as well, and input a lot more there. And so we were waiting for the Three Waters entities to take shape, and that's not going to happen now in the form they're expected. And we probably at least another 2 years off before anything actually happens there. So we've got resource issues right now with wastewater to be dealt with as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. Just coming back to your comments, Richard, I mean, certainly in my experience, a huge amount can be achieved by working in partnership with central government agencies and then being seen as a credible partner. And through that, you can actually bring about change. So I think you're on the right track there. Councillor Maru.
I'm sure I thought you might have been adjourning for a cup of tea with Councillor Maru's sections. Just really quick. 6.14, Mike. So in terms of the poor backfill, how was it found? Was that the contractor that reported 6.14? So it was when the pipe was repaired and there was another leak in another bit in Motueka and it was put down to poor backfill. How did you find that out? Was that a contractor reported What's the process of finding out what you've put in there? Because it's
So basically, when we do have a pipe break, we try and find evidence of why it failed, whether it's pipe age, deterioration of the pipe, or just the surrounding areas. And we know some areas, depending on who the developer was or who the contractor was, we've seen patterns of failure, and some areas we go looking. But often you dig it up, and it's obviously there was no clerk of works or no regular inspection of the work done, and you find large rocks next to the pipe or no actual bedding material. So it is quite obvious, but of course you only find this years later, and there's no comeback.
Yeah.
So 3 or 4 decades down.
And then really, really quickly, just down a couple, 6.15.2, where it's around illegal takes of water. I just find it interesting that there's an organisation that's been named in that. Is that because it was the organisation that did the unlawful take? Because it reads as a member of an organisation, and we've named the organisation in the report. I find that awkward a little bit. Just an illegal tampering take until the investigation's probably all that.
So I haven't got it right at hand, yeah, but that would be an oversight. Yeah, we don't, yeah.
Sorry, I just
Perhaps a comment on that.
Yes.
Can I just say that I've had discussions with the general manager of Fire Emergency New Zealand about this. Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, they have staff that, and there are hydrants that they use for fighting fires that don't have non-return valves and water meters on them. And what they're finding is, in cases, is that, without their knowledge, these staff know these exist. Someone asks them, "Oh, you know what about? I want to fill my pool. Can we get?" "Oh, yeah, I'll get the hydrant." That's what's going on. So, so you can't blame fire and emergency. It's actually their staff. And I know when I talked to the regional manager, he's actually been very strong about training all the volunteer staff as well as the professional staff that, listen, these hydrants are only to be used in emergency situations that they have authority under our bylaw to do. Okay.
Thank you for the explanation. And I take that. I just also acknowledge the volunteer importance of the brigades across. So I hope it's handled in a amicable way and it's a training rather than a compliance way, because and when times go bad, we rely on these volunteers all across our region, and in past, that's what things have done. In the old days, if you wanted to get something done, you could call a volunteer and that'd help. Let's just try and educate rather than.
The education's been going on for about at least 5 or 6 years, so they do know. And I think in this particular situation, one of our staff saw it, photographed it, they got caught.
Thank you. Councillor Hill.
On that matter, is there an issue with the filling of the Collingwood school pool? Is that what's at the heart of the Collingwood issue? So I think there was an issue.
We had an issue a couple of years ago where they drained our reservoir and upset all our treatment. And it was a similar source and done. So it's not that long ago we've got on record asking them not to use our network for filling pools. Yes. I think this was that was a school pool at the time. I think this was just a local swimming pool. I don't think it was actual. Yeah, it was a private pool.
So I understand. So I was involved in some conversations back then around the pool getting filled in a way that wasn't supposed to be, and I think the negotiation or the compromise was like, okay, in this case, but limited, so that it's just increasing very slowly. But please don't do it again. But I thought that had happened again this past season. I'd seen some comments somewhere that the pool had been filled again in a way that it shouldn't have been. So I just made an assumption related to this. But if there's something ongoing around how Collingwood's filling its pool, maybe there's not now, but
not that I'm
going to take it up. Yeah, I can't quite see. I think I saw an email somewhere about that.
Okay.
A couple of other things, if I might, in terms of the ITM fire, and I'll just say that I think our comms out of well, just not the comms, but obviously the quick response and the groundwater testing and the managing of that crisis really, I think went really well as far as I could tell. And you know, quite a big deal at the time, thinking there could be some really significant issues here. And, you know, I was reminded by somebody that, you know, the reticulated system in Tākaka that we pay rates on, the firefighting system, when that went in, there was opposition to it. About, well, that's never going to be used and what a waste of time and we're going to pay money, you know, and I think even by one or two of our local councillors, maybe even back then. But, you know, one of the shout outs from Philip Wolf, the IPM owner and the fire chief in the Bay, was that it was an immediate shout out to council for having put in that system. And without it, we would have lost pretty likely a good part of our town. So I think that you see in the report, a metre away from our service centre over there, they're talking about 3 minutes away from, you know, and then it's through, you know, the whole meal is just made of matches, really, you know, like it's just tinder, some of those places. So, you know, it was another reminder for me around, because people oppose things doesn't mean it isn't a good idea. And, you know, I think that's really, so this comes up all the time with a lot of our projects, in most new things. There's a level of opposition from some, and we must of course always see what's genuine in that and the good points and things that we need to take account of. But because people oppose things isn't a reason not to do it. So that's something that's that idea is strengthening me over 4 years now, and it's settling in quite a more comfortable place than getting too concerned about all of the opposition to things. So, and so I appreciated Wolfie's shout out, and not sure if people really understood what the shout out was to from him.
So before you carry on, Councillor Hill, on a different topic, I think Mike would like to comment on that.
Yeah, that was before my time, but I've heard quite a bit about it. The opposition, I think the firefighting capability went through. The opposition was to make it open to a public water supply as well. So it still doesn't supply drinking water to the community. And I guess some of the issues around the bores could have been avoided had they been on the public water supply for drinking water as well.
I think Tim was suggesting that the even putting it in and then people having to pay for it, it's never going to work. When will we, you know, all of that. But I think we were very close to it, something even more serious through town, like really, yeah. So, and a couple of other things, if I may. So the dump station on Motupepe Street, great to have that in. And, you know, we've had a pretty good season over there, which we've needed, our businesses have needed. A lot of tourists around, a lot of camper vans. They seem to be getting bigger and bigger. Caravans, some monster vehicles on the road, you know, big unit with a big unit. And so imagining them managing up around the eyesight, it would have been just impossible. It actually would have been impossible, I think. Some of those vehicles couldn't manage in there. And to say that that came through I don't know, somebody's coming to the community board and saying, look, something needs to happen. So great to see the system working, and here it is built. I just would add that at the peak there, over those sort of 3 or 4 weeks, sometimes we probably had 4 or 5 camper van units backed up down Motupepe Street, waiting to come in. And I just was looking at this. I was looking at the shape of it, and I know it's got the same amount of room either end. I guess people can come in either end. This is how it come, but you know, often, say the whole unit's, you drive in and there's the parking space to come in, and I only ever saw people parked to here. There may have been somebody in front and gone, but mostly people. Anyway, I just imagine we just needed a bit of a tail some way, but I guess over 3 or 4 weeks, probably we just manage it. But there was quite a line of camper vans down the road, and didn't seem to want to go up and turn around and go the other way.
Yeah, Mike.
I'll just comment on that. We are having quite a few issues with blockages there because people dumping wipes and whatnot there. So a lot through the busy season, most days we had reports coming in that was blocked again, and often both sides were blocked. So yeah, there still needs to be a bit of education with the caravanners about what they can throw into their cartridges on board and dispose there, because once it blocks up, that's it. It's stuck for several hours, and that might be some of the reason people are backing up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. I imagined a wee sign is when you pull in, the sign on the fence saying, come as far forward as you can, please. You know, because I think people pull up to it and stop, but they quite a bit of detail there operationally, isn't there? And finally, just on the Collingwood site, there's a lot of issues come through. Look, I appreciate so much how quickly we get notified of what they are in terms of UV issues, and this has happened over the years. I think when I was working for the iwi, I was involved a bit there around that. So it's like an ongoing bit of a problem child, I think. And I don't know I know people are very attentive to getting things fixed up and what's needed. But then I see in here that there was something about not all routine maintenance was being completed. And I think if we've got a problem child, we need more than a naughty chair for them, really.
There's a combination of things happening with Collingwood. There's some upgrades that we're currently underway and due for the site. There is a training issue. Through COVID, we lost some of our experienced operators and we struggled to replace them, and we've replaced them, but with fairly young new operators, and there's still some training to be had. So it's a discussion that we're in with Downer, contractors on it, and we're working through training programs for them to get up to speed. We're looking at putting together some videos on some of the routine maintenance that needs to be done. And it's just, it's a resourcing issue. Again, there's so much more be put on them, and it's getting the time. But I think the training, point I made to them is the training is important, and you're going to save more time in the long run if you just take that time out and get them doing it properly and working through it with each of the new operators. I think some of them were thrown in the deep end a wee bit there. So, and also largely the UV unit has been, which I think there's still a sensor they're waiting for to arrive, but the whole unit has been serviced and is operational again. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Hill. We've just got a few more questions and then we'll break for coffee. So, Councillor Dowler.
Thank you. Brett asked the one about 6.14. It's been answered. 6.13. The end caps which failed on the water pipe. Does that happen often? Because I had one of them fail outside my business in Motueka too. I came to work one Monday morning and I had a geyser coming out the footpath and the end cap had failed on the end of the pipe. So
no, it's not a common thing. Right. We don't hear of it often. I mean, anything can really fail. It's more the tapping bands that fail, if anything.
Yeah. Okay. And just following on from Chris Hill there about the firefighting supply in Takaka. I can't remember. I know Stewie and I were there, but I think Kit may have been there as well. And we did go against the public negativity regarding putting that supply in. And just note now that we've had two major fires over there. We had the Fonterra fire originally. Now we've had this one. And it's a fact. Everybody knows that if we hadn't put that water supply in, Taki would have been in trouble. So I think it's a real credit to the council back in the day who decided and spent the money to do that. And just for the new ones sitting around the table, every now and again, you got to go against your community because you can see the benefit of what's going to happen. And I just got to say that I'm happy to say I said yes that day.
Thank you, Councillor Dowler. Councillor Kinnermont.
Just a quick one. On Tuesday this week, I had the pleasure of having a tour of the Bells Island wastewater treatment plant. If you haven't been there, it's well worth it. And a big shout out for Brad Nixon, the operations manager, who took us through the tour there. He dealt with all sorts of levels of questions very competently and very succinctly. And lastly, I'd just like to compliment the team who's behind the asset management renewal program for the wastewater treatment plants. It's logical. It's, I'll leave it at that. So big shout out for Brad Nixon and give him a morning tea on me, or if I'm allowed to do that.
Thank you, Councillor Kinnermont. Just pass your money over to Mike. I think that's what I heard you say. And Deputy Mayor Bryant, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and apologies for lateness. I take it that you're covering waste at this time. So if I may, just a question about the new weighbridge at Richmond and how that came about, because I don't recall us approving that. Or was that funded through some other source, or how did that come about? And what's the reason for that?
It's been on the cards for some time, and there was funding in there, but I think it's more. I'm not sure exactly how that came out, Richard. I don't know if you can recall.
It was part of the upgrade of the Mariri upgrade. Part of the upgrade of, because we were Richmond. Sorry,
yeah.
My apologies, Richmond. Is that we've got problems with traffic down there coming in and out, and we were using the same weighbridge to weigh vehicles going in and out, because we're actually moving more to weight now than we are to volume. This was always part of the program, and so the second weighbridge just creates far greater efficiency and effectiveness and safety by putting it in. So it was part of the development of the Richmond. Always had, yeah. It may not have been specifically identified as a second weighbridge, but it was certainly part of the major upgrade that we do down there to make it more effective.
It was actually, there was an upgrade program to go from volume to weight, to be fair. And yes, I think you're right. It wasn't actually specifically identified, but we've done 3 of them now. Yeah.
So if I may, Madam Chair, just a couple of supplementaries. So I'm supportive of them. And lots of people in the community are charging now by weight rather than estimating volume, which had some flaws. I guess the weighbridge is only really needed at peak times, and I understand some of the issues around safety as well. But are we taking this opportunity to identify the lows, like as part of our waste minimisation, see what percentage is building waste and that type of thing? Because I'm assuming now that we'll have 2 people manning weighbridges. So I just wonder if that could be looked at, identifying what the waste is.
There be specific details. I don't think there's 2 persons operating the weighbridge, just 1 person in and out. So, but as far as the waste analysis that goes on, we do undertake waste analysis protocol, not on every load. We do a sample loading to work out the volume. So that's done separately from the weighbridges. But the weight's going in and out. When the statistics are worked out, it's applied to all the weights that come in.
Right. Because I'd be interested to know if there's a way we can ascertain that building waste particularly, because that seems to be a high volume when I'm
to you, Madam Chair. I understand they've got the DNC site now, and so the construction and demolition, or CND rather, construction and demolition waste, they drop off separately, and if they've got a load, they can dispose of part of the load and then go over the weighbridge. So it doesn't actually get weighed as load to landfill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all.
All right, thank you. And before we break, 6.7, you talk about the Wakefield source contaminations and the issues that we had there, Mike. And you know, I appreciate you coming out to the Wakefield meeting this week and explaining to the Community Association what happened, and I think that session went very well actually. What I reflected on after the session was actually the importance to the operation of the council of our community at large, because it was in that forum that a gentleman identified on his regular daily walk that there was water in a sump, and as a result of that, I guess we've identified a water leak, and that input and those observations that we get from the community are just so important to us, and you know, it just makes me think that the channels that we have for people to be able to phone us or to give us that information, we welcome that, and we want to make it as easy as possible. So that's a shout out to the community at large and how important they are.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's absolutely right. One thing I just want to point out again is the Antenno, which is a great opportunity for people. If they put it on their mobile phones, they can take a photo, send it in. It gives us the geo-reference and the details of what's going on. It just helps us a lot better. Yep.
We are going to break, but Councillor Shellcrash.
My one's just around the waste management stuff. I get super frustrated when I go to the tip and see perfectly good bikes being thrown into the hopper. I don't know whether that's somehow we can educate people as they come through. It was just a dad with his kid, and they could just go to Bike Hub. I mean, it's one of those things you can't have someone watching the whole time, but whether it's the person on the gate, you know, educating them about what they can and can't, you know, recycle. So I mean, that's just a general.
All right, thank you very much. Look, I do apologise to staff that we're going to break for morning tea now. Deputy Mayor Bryant and I need to have a meeting, so we're going to have a 20-minute break for morning tea. So if we could be back at 11:20. Thank you very much. Grant, but before we do that, Brian, you've just got a couple of follow-up comments to make about transportation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, just to follow up on some of the questions raised earlier, specifically Councillor McKinnon and Dowler. Just firstly, Councillor McKinnon, I can say that the Mapua Drive work, or the footpath work there, was co-funded under our low cost, low risk funding, and there were contributions from a local developer as well. So, yeah, and Councillor Dowler, as my colleague Robert pointed out, we still have to put a fence along the property on Winsley Road. But I can add that there is also going to be a small retaining wall as well. The idea is to do that work with the larger bits of kit while the road activities are ongoing. So use the same bit of kit to do it at the same time, and then for the rest of the work, it will be done under footpath closure. So the Winsley Road will be back open to two lanes.
Awesome, thank you for that, Brian. And all right, reserves and facilities, Grant.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to start off by highlighting over the summer period, our contractors mentioned that there were a lot more people using our reserves and facilities, particularly in some of the coastal areas like Mataroa, Rabbit Island, which is, I guess, a fairly obvious one, but also in the Motueka area. So that put a little bit more pressure on them to keep toilets clean and rubbish removed. So, but I guess it's a positive thing overall. The other thing is we've started regular meetings with fire and emergency over the rapidly changing fire hazard situation. I met with them yesterday along with some other agencies across the district. We're also meeting with Olsen's on a weekly basis. So as a result of the changes, we have stopped mowing in Motueka now in the reserves. We've also locked up all the wood-fired barbecues across the district, and however, the gas ones are remaining in place and able to be used. We've also closed off some of the internal tracks at Rabbit Island. And over the next week, all the indicators are that, you know, we might move to red in a number of areas. I know we're already there in parts of Motueka, so we're just keeping a watching brief on everything and, you know, reducing that mechanical maintenance down. So I'll take the report as read and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. We'll have Councillor Dowler, then Councillor Walker, and maybe Councillor Shellcrest. This covers your page as well, but we'll start with Councillor Dowler.
Thank you. One question and a comment. At community board the other night, we're spoken about these new fandangled rubbish tins they're using in parks and reserves around the South Island or whatever, and apparently we do have some in Golden Bay by the sound of it. They're self-compacting, and they've got a signal that tells you when they're filling up. Will we look at possibly expanding the network of those at some stage? I know it's a cost, and we probably haven't budgeted for it, but I just, if it's a saving like they say they are.
So through the chair, at the moment, given our the contract structure, it wouldn't be any advantage to us to install those, because and also my understanding is they're about $6,000 each. I have looked into them previously. they've got benefits, but I'm yet to be convinced.
Well, that's cool. I had no idea what the cost was. They were just talking about it, so I thought I'd ask.
Just added to that also, we would be keen to have a look at the whole situation with rubbish and rubbish bins across the district, and particularly given the cost of that each year.
And my comment is talking about the fire risk. We had a meeting with some project managers at Sports Park on Wednesday morning. And one of the project managers said he was mowing his lawn 2 days before, hit a stone on his grass, it pinged across, set fire to a bush in the corner of his section. He managed to contain it with the hose, and his wife put it out with the dog bowl full of water. He got a fright. So that's how simple it can be. Very, very simple. He got a fright.
Thank you, Councillor Dowler. Councillor Walker.
Yeah, thank you, through you, Chair. Grant, thank you for your report. And there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about. One is that I attended the Maraho Sandy Bay Association AGM on Sunday, and one of the hot topics there was obviously open fires. And their major concern, there were residents from Split Apple Rock who witnessed and spoke to a team of tourists who are sitting down on the beach with cigarettes. And the perceived thing is that maybe they don't understand that an open fire includes sucking on a cigarette. So there was a question around comms and how do we get messaging out, because we may have a sign up saying fire banned or no open fire, but I don't know where that sits. But the other part of this conversation is that with Taka, and I have just sent through photos, having just recently done my casual stroll around Bajent's Reserve, Kina Beach, and I sent through to Richard Hilton, and along with the guy from Taka who's responsible for that area, photographs of how many fires that are happening there, significant pieces of burnt timber left lying around, and a big teepee structure which someone's taken huge amounts of efforts to build. However, just 2 feet away, there's evidence of a massive big fire that's been had there. So with the fact that it is incredibly dry, and what Councillor Dowler's just said about someone mowing their lawn innocently in the spark, I would hate to think what would happen if we had a fire in either of our areas, like around Maraho, which is as dry, or around Bajent's. Our capacity to fight those fires is limited. Our rural team, as we all probably know, have gone down to assist in Christchurch, so it's leaving our local resources really tight. I don't know, as a reserves, whether we can push from your team some comms just to remind people that actually a no fire ban does include sucking on a cigarette. That's one point that I wanted to raise. The other thing is around housing. Do I bring that up now or on the report? Community.
Shall we just get any response to the fire issue first?
Thank you.
Just through the chair, we're currently putting together some communications around the fires and reserves, so perhaps we can add something in regarding cigarettes. And we're obviously reliant on people letting us know if there are fires, as well as our staff being out and about. So hopefully they will let us know very early if there's more issues like that.
Thank you very much. All right. Carry on, Councillor Walker. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I'm looking at page 63, and it talks about the what is the heading on this one? Oh, hang on. Anyway, it's community housing. So on 7.4, it states currently what our wait list is for our pensioner housing. So you've got your Richmond, Motueka, Murchison, Brightwater, Wakefield. I guess my question is, how long have these people been on the waiting list, and what movement or traction do we have on those lists? It's great to know that, for example, Richmond has 90 sitting on a waiting list and Motueka has 24. I'm mindful that some of those people that we've previously had on waiting lists, unfortunately, are no longer with us. So can we get an update of like it's great for as a number, but for me, data would be how long have they been? Thank you.
Just through the chair, perhaps I could report back on that to the next committee, and I'll obtain that information.
Thanks, Grant. Yes.
One of the reasons for the waiting list is we have to wait for people to leave the units, and if they stay there for a long time, the waiting list just stays. So we can give you the information on when the last person left a rental unit, but you know, with housing, it's such a shortage. People are tending not to leave; they're tending to stay where they are. So the waiting list could actually be quite long for a long period.
Councillor Shawcross.
Yeah, thanks for the report. Just a couple of things. Obviously, I was lucky enough to go, well, lucky, but felt a bit like PD work they used to do. Asphalting over in Murchison. I always say that, I've never done it, but it sounds cool. Yeah, I was lucky enough to go over and give the guys a hand and Murchison with the asphalting of their pump track, which was super cool. And man, what a wicked community they've got over there. With the amount of people that turned up to volunteer their time was super cool, and they were all just juicing over that, which is great. The other thing I was just looking at, I'm a bit tired today, so the other thing I was going to talk about is just the land in the for Tintaka for the it's page. I want to be professional here. Item 7.268, page 68. Just the land for the Taka Skills Park, skate park land will now be made available to council for the skills park by landowner. Is that actually a real thing? Because from what discussions I've had with Fonterra, the guys at Fonterra, they're still trying to get that across the line. So,
through the chair, sorry, can you just tell me where that was in the report?
It's page 68, 7.2.
Actually in the table.
Oh,
yeah.
Right. So, just through the chair, I have been having discussions with Rob Kent about this. We decided to just temporarily hold off while Rob was negotiating the land issues that he was working on. I have had communications with Fonterra, and they informed me that it's been handed over to the environment manager, Fonterra. I've yet to hear from that person, but I need to just follow up and see, you know, exactly what the status is. I'm hopeful that we'll still get it.
Thank you. Morning, Joe. Councillor Ellis. Oh, okay. Just before we go to Councillor Ellis, you've got a comment, Robert?
Sorry, just to add to Grant's, in my work with Fonterra, it's a very different proposition for them to gift land. So we tend to work on alternatives to that. And when I do go back to Fonterra, which Grant's right, I have been wanting to make sure I get Mutapipi Street nailed down before I impose on them again. We'll probably be suggesting some kind of lease agreement rather than an outright gifting, as I understand it there. You know, to give land away involves going to their full board. And as you can imagine, a company the size of Fonterra, that wouldn't be easy to get onto an agenda. So they've been really, really good to deal with on Mutapipi Street and the wastewater pump station, where they were very helpful as well. So just mindful of not overloading them all at once.
Great, thank you. Councillor Ellis.
Good morning, everybody. Through you, thank you, Chair. I'm just wanting to take this opportunity to give a big big round of applause actually to the reserves guys and gals. The summer season has been so busy, and you have managed to keep everything ticking over and looking fabulous through that whole time, while all of those reserves have been under a lot of pressure the use, especially like to mention Motoroa Rabbit Island, which has had a massive amount of use over the summer. Every time I've been out there, it's almost looking like you're in the centre of Wellington. It has been so busy. So I just wanted to thank everybody for that huge amount of work, and to acknowledge the work that has happened at Motoroa with the new equestrian path being developed, finally getting the new toilet. It has been a lot of hard work for the team to get in as well. So I just wanted to especially acknowledge that work over the summer.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ellis. Councillor Killenmont.
No, I didn't have my hand up.
Okay, all right. And Councillor Maru.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Grant, I just wanted to check on the Motueka Quay Historical Wharf. Do we now confirm that council do actually own that land now? It's been a journey.
Just through the chair, I was hoping Steve Richards would be here, but I understand he's in a meeting at the moment about that wharf right now. So if he comes back in shortly, I'd like that opportunity for him to talk about it, if possible. But, you'll have something hot off the press, I think.
The Parks team asked me to initiate an investigation. So we've had a status investigation done, which confirmed that it came through the Harbour Board all the way to the Tasman District Council, but we don't have a title to the property, and that would be a monumental and complex process. So there's no title to it, which says that it's ours or nobody else's. But the status investigation that we've had done says that it was part of a Harbour Board. Excellent.
Fantastic. And just one final, again,
Thank you, Councillor Maru and Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chair. In terms of the closing up the fireboxes, wood fireboxes, were you just speaking about the side of the hill, or all of them in the district?
Just through the chair. So are you asking about the risk in Golden Bay?
I was thinking about, I was just rode past Liger Bay.
Right.
This one, people are stoking up a big heap of wood into that metal box fire thing, and I didn't think they had locks on those.
I'll need to check with my staff about that one, but definitely, if not all locked, they're in the process of locking them. So.
Oh, okay.
But the fire risk is a bit lower in Golden Bay at the moment, but
not for long, I think.
It probably won't stay.
Yeah,
for long.
Thank you.
So.
All right, thank you very much. I think that's it for reserves and facilities. So thank you, Grant, which takes us on now to program delivery. So welcome, Rob and Adam. Over to you, thanks. I'm not sure whether it's Rob or Adam, but...
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll take the report as read. I haven't got anything to add. Rob, have you got anything?
Nothing other than to say pleased to be doing some delivery on our Transport Choices projects after all the work last year to get through the public consultation, and unfortunately lost most of the budget for Richmond, but we've got about half reserved for Motueka with the change of government and policy.
Thank you. Open for questions. This covers pages 73 to the end of the report. Councillor Maru.
Thank you, Madam Chair. While we're saying nice things, again, Rob, thank you to yourself and to Dan in terms of helping us move the projects we were going to do in that project to the western side of Motueka. So I think we've ended up in a project that our community will appreciate rather than one that will divide them.
Councillor Dakey.
Yeah, just in regards to the transport choices for Richmond, the tender awarded for Queen Street, Wensley Road is now not to be completed. Would that be correct? Because of the government funding disappearing?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Just maybe one question from me. The delivery of the Better Off funding projects, one of them in particular, which is around contributing to some work around setting up an urban development agency. So where are we at with that, and when will council get an understanding of what we've learned?
Yep. Briley has prepared a report to go to joint committee because obviously it was funded through the first tranche Better Off funding. So that's been prepared and it's just in draft form and go to the next joint committee. Awesome. It's just tying up the loose ends of it and just the final report. There was 2 or 3 stages to the report, but there's a bit of backstory. So fundamentally, we didn't finish the project totally, but the report will outline why.
All right, appreciate that. Thank you. Councillor Walker, then Councillor Mayling.
Yeah, thank you through your chair. Just looking at the procurement, it's got tenders awarded since last report. Can someone explain to me what a price quality method is? So I'm in particular looking at the Motueka West Stormwater Discharge System. What is the price quality method?
Yeah, sure. So basically we measure, so we set things up for and look at past experience and things like that, and price quality method basically gives you a premium price that you're prepared to pay for better quality of a contractor, and so that's kind of where you weigh up the differences in the quality of what they're offering you and the price.
Yeah. So can I just add to that, Madam Chair? It actually was designed to sort out the cowboys. So we look at non-price attributes to start with, which is basically their methodology, their resources. What else was there? Relevant experience. About 5 different categories that are non-priced, and we weight them according and compare them and weight them, and then we open the prices up, and there's a formula in there to work out, and it puts value on those that have higher weightings for the non-price attributes. So in effect, you might not get the lowest price, you might actually get a price that's slightly higher, but what you're actually saying is that particular contractor, the difference is the value you're going to get in the contract. So you actually don't get, it's not a race to the bottom, you've actually got to price it and have the appropriate skills and experience to actually deliver it. It actually reduces the risk for council completely by going down that track.
Rob.
I was just going to add something about risk as well. So you can manage your variation risk by having clarity about what the methodology will be, and you're clear about what you're going to get in advance. So it's quite effective for that risk management.
Thank you. Councillor Mayling.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Look, this is just a thank you for something on page 82. Best Islands issue started over 20 years ago, and over the last 4 years, Richard, Joe Bywater and Rob Kent have worked to actually get that through, and it's finally signed off, and I think the roading will be completed in April. So well done. It wasn't easy, different interests and conflicts, but we will resolve. It's now been resolved, and we will have legal access to those 30 houses. And I think I get a bottle of wine out of a former CEO. So a lot of work, a long time, but we've actually got a good resolution. You just got to be persistent and pig-headed sometimes.
Thank you very much, and maybe we should acknowledge Councillor Mayling's efforts with respect to sorting that through as well. So probably not. All right, so we do have a resolution. We do have a resolution on the board. If there are no further questions, comments, if someone would wish to move that, moved by Councillor Shellcrass and seconded Councillor Kinnan-Month. So if there is nothing further, we'll put that resolution. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you very much, Rob and Adam. Sorry for keeping you waiting so long. And we shall now move to the DIP update. So welcome Steve and Peter. Yeah, I understand that you're rotating with Richard as to who goes first in the meeting agenda as opposed to last, but...
Oh, are we? I didn't know that.
Oh, okay. So new information.
We're waiting for Chris Blythe too, but me and Pete can probably wing it until he gets here. I think he took the opportunity in the break to meet with some other people. So
excellent. All right, over to you, Steve. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, through you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present our update to you. As with previous months, it is a general roundup of the things that have been going on within the Digital Innovation Program, and also a little bit broader to some of the operations activity within the Information Services team. So I take the report as read. Happy to answer any of your questions. I guess just prior to that, there was a conversation in the previous agenda item about Antenno and how we keep residents abreast of things which are going on in our community. Richard came and spoke to me about the situation that we had with respect to the Brightwater Wakefield water situation and what could we have done with some improved communications. So you will see in the report there is something in there around Smart Region and the fact that we haven't progressed Smart Region particularly well because of initiatives that we're looking for. That's one of those initiatives, and we've had a couple of meetings with someone who could provide digital signage that would be a much better way of communicating some of that information right on the ground within our communities. So it's watch this space for that one. Otherwise, take any of your questions.
Excellent, thank you. Open for questions, clarification.
Surely it's not going to be that short.
Councillor Kinnermott.
Thank you. Page 99 on the table, ID 1413, Smart Region. Just querying why it's red. If it's only just on hold, surely that could be an amber colour as opposed to red. That's my only thing I can pick out on your report.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, and that's what I've just been talking about in terms of some of the opportunities that we might have. We've been struggling a little bit for candidates for what goes into that Smart Region part of our program, in part because initially we had focused heavily on providing connectivity through wherever it is that council have got services. Then there's the opportunity for us to provide things like internet hotspots for connectivity and those sorts of things. With the advent of better 4G and 5G in our region, and also with the prevalence of Starlink for some more remote communities, that's become less of an issue for us. So we were red there because we were kind of looking for some projects, and that's not to say that we're scrabbling to find money, find projects to spend the money on. It's just finding things that are worthwhile that can contribute to the overall dip. Digital signage is one of those things.
Deputy Mayor Bryant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Steve, through you to Steve, just in relation to the Project Maryland upgrade, that's to upgrade, replace what has previously been Magic. Will Magic then be phased out over time? Is that the plan going forward?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, you're correct. Merlin is the upgrade of Magic to the latest version of Magic, which is called Magic in the Cloud, or Magic Cloud. And we took that decision as a means of mitigating some risks that we had with our current Magic install, which is several versions out of date, and it's got a number of problematic things going on with it. The way that I describe it is that it's the opportunity for us to put it into a sounder position that we can then, for want of another words, park up while we concentrate on our CRM solution and get the vein of customer working for our organisation first before we then go back and revisit Magic. So it's a holding pattern.
So will the Maryland work alongside the Doris program? I'm just trying.
Doris is a separate system, but they're all interrelated in some way, shape, or form. So we will still have Magic. Merlin's a project name. We'll still have Magic, and it'll be called Magic Cloud, whereas at the moment it's called Magic Enterprise 7.61 or something. So we'll still have Magic as a financial management information system, and it will still deliver some of our enterprise resource planning functions. It will still support, for example, the LTP 2434. And it will work with Doris, and will work with the new customer relationship management system that we're putting in. But ultimately, within the next 3 to 5 years in the life of the digital program, that before council now in terms of the long-term plan, Magic will be replaced with something that's a more modern, future-focused system.
Just a further supplementary, Madam Chair. Just in relation to all these different programs, is it going to make it harder to find things for people? Because that's the issue I have now. And just people, stuff that we get asked, and you're unsure where to look at times.
So one of the things we're trying to achieve out of the Digital Innovation Program is that at the moment, and part of its nature of the fact that we're a council and we're a unitary council, we have a portfolio of systems that's as long as your arm, whether they're circulating library books or, replacing chunks of roading. They're all very different. Part of the Digital Innovation Program is to start to bring that together. So, for example, your Word and Outlook and Teams all sits in the Microsoft environment. Doris sits in the Microsoft environment. The new Harakiki CRM system is going to sit in the Microsoft environment. And in there, things know about each other, and they can be viewed together. And there's no question of, I need to look here for this and I need to look here for that. So we can start to get a lot smarter about how we're getting results, and also that we're getting the single source of truth. So yes, we've got to keep Magic for the next few years to maintain our business, essentially, while we are modernising these other pieces around it. But over time, our plan is that Magic will be replaced by a financial system that also sits in the Magic Cloud. And then everything's together, and the plan is that stuff gets a lot easier to find over that time. And as well as that, because it's in a large enterprise cloud platform, we can start to use things like AI to also assist us to find things and not have that issue that we've got today.
Thank you.
And I'll just add to that, if I may, through the chair. Things will get easier. It's difficult at the moment, as Peter says, because of the plethora of systems that we've got, and also the requests which are coming to us now are more complicated, and they require us to be more connected with different parts of our business, and the systems that we've got at the moment don't support that. And that's why things are getting so difficult at the moment. Our community is asking us much more complex questions, and questions that involve several parts of our business at the same time. And yeah, we're laying down the train tracks as fast as we can drive on them.
Councillor Maru, and then Councillor Mayling.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Can I be naughty just to start with? So Harakiki is going to leave Doris, the magician, together, so Merlin, the wizard, has full understanding. Is that, have I got this?
You're on to it.
Just with matters, it doesn't actually relate to your report, but just I noted you in the room before, just if you get a message about the sound quality in the Motueka Library, it's not the internet, and it's not for the internet and the Zoom connectivity, it's for the sound for people listening in there. So just as like,
I heard you, and you're on my Christmas card list. Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Mayling.
Well, just quickly at the end, digital programs or computer changes always make me nervous, having been part of a disastrous one. So when I read this report, I was actually quite heartened, but I still see one of the things you're saying is the greatest risk is the volume of change that we're going through. And that involves people as well. So do you think we're managing that appropriately? And are the staff coping with those changes? Because that, to me, is, I'm sure the audit people in the audit team will be saying, what is the level of risk? Because that's what you want to manage.
Through the chair, yes, it is a concern. I have some control over the DIP program, which is just one of many things which are happening. So it has been on our radar that we are a change program in an environment that's got a heap of change and external change. So we've been raising that a lot. From our side, what we're able to do, we have a role advertised currently for a change manager, which will be based in Chris Choate's team, but working with us. So we'll have a resource to help our project delivery, which is good. We are working on a new change methodology and strategy with Deloitte, and that's due to land imminently, and that will give us some tools to help. And we had alerted our senior team to, the change is ever present, and Steve may pick up on that from that perspective.
Yeah, the only other thing I'd say through you, Madam Chair, is to echo what Chris has just said. It is our biggest risk, we believe. The technology is risky, yep, sure, but actually there's a lot of technology solutions that can do what we want it to do. It's how we put it into effect that's the problem for us. And we're really mindful of that. You know, I had a conversation just yesterday when I said, look, we need to field a football team of 11 players. We've only got 9. And that's the fact of the matter. So if that's the case, what can you do? One of the things that we can do is we can lengthen the program somewhat so that the requirement to change as rapidly is reduced. And the Merlin example that we just talked about is one of those things. We didn't feel that we could subject the organisation to a full ERP swap out. But by doing a little bit of work to Merlin and parking that to one side while we concentrate on other things, we can achieve the change in chunks that we can consume best. So we're trying to manage it all the time. You'll still see the risk come up because we can't solve it. We need to work with it and continually mitigate.
Thank you very much. Oh, yeah, Chris.
Sorry, something else popped in my head as well. The feedback we're getting from the organisation is people are quite energised about what we're doing. So when we did the SharePoint project, we did all we could with change management, but we probably had a fair bit of resistance. You know, at the time, it was a big change. What I'm seeing this time around is perhaps the way that we've engaged better is people is better, involving them in the vendor workshops, about 30 business reps involved. And many of those individuals have been saying, we're really excited, this is really great. What's the next step? What's going to happen? So building on that enthusiasm is a better place to be than having a more resistant group of people. I mean, that's just based on a small amount of feedback. It may not speak to everybody, but that's an encouraging sign, I'd say.
Thank you very much. You know, there's a lot of money being invested in this program of work, and it's hugely important to the council, not just in terms of managing risks, but also enabling future possibilities. You could never underreport, to me, benefits along the way in terms of what you're doing. So I just encourage you to keep doing that, because it's realising those benefits that actually gives me the confidence that we're on track. So just something to think about. So I think we've got a resolution up there on the board. It's moved by Councillor Mayling and seconded by Councillor Hill. If there's nothing further, I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you, Peter, Chris and Steve. And look, before we finish, team, I think, no, you can go. Steve and Grant, I think you've just got an update on the Motueka Wharf.
Quickly update the committee on the restoration plan for the Motueka Quay Historic Wharf. So late last year, a community group is formed who have an interest in seeing the wharf restored. And so the group is made up of members of the Keep Motueka Beautiful group, the Motueka Historical Society, and there also is a member from the Motueka Community Board as well on that committee. And so I'm supporting them on behalf of council towards a restoration project. And so at the moment, we're looking at we have a restoration plan, and we're looking at pricing, which at the moment we've got a rough quote of between $160,000 and $200,000 for this to complete this restoration plan. I'm assisting them with looking at application to Heritage New Zealand because it's quite an interesting site, being a Maori archaeological site and a European archaeological site. So, you know, the wharf was built in 1887, and they think the granite came from Adele Island. So it's all really interesting. So other parts of the project are, one of the big parts of the project that's, we don't know how we're going to achieve it yet, obviously, is the funding. And so whether that ends up being a multi-pronged approach through the community, maybe support through funding agencies, maybe some support from council, we don't, obviously the group doesn't know yet. And another big part of it to start on is publicity, so which will lead also into funding options. So so just to update you, it's just getting underway, and I think it's a really worthwhile project for the Motueka community, and it would be a good outcome, obviously, for the community. I think it's a well-used asset, recreational. It's a council asset, but it's not determined actually which area of council the asset would fall under. So that's something, for further discussion as well amongst ourselves. So there's a lot of things still to work through, but it's a project that's underway. So thank you.
Councillor Lara.
Thank you, and thank you, Stephen. Thank you for being involved. And now that we assume that it's now councillors, please don't put another fence up there. But yeah, thank you for working with the groups. I look forward to it.
All right. Oh, Councillor Dowler.
I assume that you know pretty much of the history over the last 10 years of the other groups that tried to get going and got stopped by the Historical Society. If not, I'll catch up offline.
No, I'm not actually, so but thanks for that.
Good. All right. Thank you for popping back to cover that item.
Thank you.
It's appreciated. All right, councillors. We're at the end of our meeting. Did you have something you wanted to say? No?
I'll say after we close the meeting.
Oh, he'll say after we've closed the meeting. All right. Councillor Hill, would you be able to close the meeting, please?
I do. Thank you, Chair. Kara kia tātou. Kia hiki te kōrero, kia wātia, kia mama te manawa o te tangata. Kia au ki te ara mō tātou e ora nei, ko rongo, ki runga, uie, tai ki.
Thank you very much.